How you doing? I'm Carlos, owner, operator of Buckaroo Gear. I've been in business now for about 23 years. Been building chaps or leggings, chinks, armitas for about 20. And what we have for you is a very intensive course on building a pair of basic chinks. I chose basic chinks because they are the basis of any type of legging. Once you learn the basics on a pair of basic chinks, you can just expand your knowledge from there. You can move into chaps, armitas, whatever you choose to do. And what's really cool about chinks or leggings of any kind is they're sort of a crossover between cowboy using gear and cowboy fashion. You know, you can go from mild to wild. You can express yourself as an artist and how you decide to build them. The pattern you use, the fringe length, the different accessories or options you add on to them. This course is going to be for somebody who has absolutely no knowledge of building chinks or chaps of any kind, and will also apply to somebody who has some leatherwork or some knowledge. We need to be upfront about the fact that this course is not a course on how to sew. You are going to need a sewing machine. You are going to need to know how to sew leather with that sewing machine. Now, I understand that a sewing machine is quite an investment. If you have access to a sewing machine but don't own one, perfect, good for you. You're going to need a sewing machine. Now, there are ways to build a pair of chinks without a sewing machine. However, I've never done it. Now, you can hand sew a pair of chinks or you can buck stitch a pair of chinks, but I've never done it. So it wouldn't be right for me to say, here, this is how you build a pair of chinks without a sewing machine, because I've never done it. However, everything I'm going to show you in this course would apply if you had the time and the patience to buck stitch or hand sew the chinks yourself. We're going to go over costs on investment on tools. Here in a minute, I'll go ahead and give you sort of an estimate on if you don't have any leatherworking tools, what you're going to need to spend tool-wise to get you going to build yourself a pair of basic chinks. Now, what's really cool about leatherwork is there's no one right way or one wrong way to do it. As long as the end user, the customer, whether it's yourself or somebody you're building for, is happy with what you made them, you've done it right. I'm really excited about teaching this course because teaching something that I've been doing for 20 years out of basically by now it's pretty much muscle memory. When I'm building something, I'm on autopilot, but I've never had to explain step by step what I'm doing. And it's only going to make me better as a builder. My philosophy for this course is going to be teach a person how to fish. And what I mean by that is we're going to get pretty intense on building a template or a pattern for the leg. And you know, I could just send you a basic template for you to work off of, but the thing with a template is no matter, there is no one size fits all template. You're going to have to make adjustments to that template. You're going to have the knowledge and the know-how on how to do that. So we might as well just go over the basics on how to build your own. Furthermore, there are several different styles of chinks. You could have round cut, you could have square cut, you could have long fringe, you could have short fringe, you could have a Great Basin style, you could have a California style, you could have a Texas style. So there's quite a bit that goes along with that, and I would really rather teach you how to fish. Learn how to build your own pattern. You can go from there. You're going to be better for it in the end because you're going to have that much more knowledge and confidence in what you're doing. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go over the computer. We're going to do some voiceover. We're going to go over every chapter in the course. Like I said, pretty intense course. I want to make sure you get your value out of this, and you know by the end of this course the basics on building some chinks. So after that, we'll go over just a cost estimate on what you're going to need to invest dollar-wise in tools from the get-go. Now, there are some exceptions. If you're doing this as a hobby, you're probably not going to want to buy the most expensive tool. But my philosophy has always been buy once, cry once. And what I mean by that is buy the tools, buy the best quality tools that you can within your budget. Unfortunately, the tool thing is just like anything, whether they're mechanics tools, any kind of leather work, anything that applies when you're purchasing something, it's you get what you pay for. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what this course is about, what I'm about, what this philosophy is about, and I'm excited to get into this. So here we go.
Okay, so here is the course outline, and this is pretty detailed, and this is still sort of a rough draft, but you'll get the idea of how detailed we're going to be in this training course. You have already, we're in right now the course introduction, the cost estimate for tools and material. So we'll cruise right into lesson number one. Lesson number one, we're going to go over tools, tool options, and explanation of all the tools. We'll go over a brief overview of the sewing machines and the types of sewing machines, what type of sewing machine you need. We're going to go over all the tools that you're going to need to have on hand, and the types of tools I like to use in building Chinks. This is pretty detailed. It'll be a detailed or a long lesson. All these are going to be detailed lessons. Lesson number two, we're going to go over the hardware and the type of glue I use and what you're going to need to know about that. Lesson number three, we are going to go over leather selection. There's many different types of leather. I'll talk about the type of leather I like to use for chap leather. We'll talk about the belt leather and the latigo leather. This is obviously a very important part of building Chinks. And we'll go over some of my philosophies on what I use and what I like to use and what I don't like to use. Lesson number four, we're going to go over how to build a basic pattern. We're going to go into the belt top shape, the leg plate shape, the leg plate in relation to the belt top, the type of measurements you need to look at to make a basic pattern on that, and what's needed to move forward in that respect. We'll talk about the angles, the standard rise measurements, the overall leg shape. There's different types of leg shapes. There's different styles. We're going to talk about the fringe line and the fringe length, which is going to be overall is going to affect the aesthetics of the chink, the way they look, the way the fringe lays, the length of the fringe, etc. This will be a very detailed course or lesson. So we'll go back over to lesson number 5 now, which will be the measurements, the sizing, and the layout for the person you're building a pair of Chinks for. How are you going to adjust your basic pattern to fit this person? What adjustments are you going to make on the cutout, and how to compensate for those adjustments, the sizes, and all the different types and shapes of people we're building these Chinks for. Lesson number 6, we're going to go over cutting out all the parts. Lesson number 7, we're going to talk about construction techniques, working with the glue, the part placement, the assembly steps, and sewing order. Lesson number 8, we're going to go over cutting the fringe. This is an art in itself, and I will go over how I do this. Lesson number 9, we're going to do the final assembly, setting rivets, adding the buckles, putting the belt in, the final trimming, etc. And then lesson number 10, we're going to talk about our closing thoughts. Anything that I've learned during filming this, we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about future live Q&A sessions and classes. I hope to do that on social media, whether it's Facebook Live or I guess Skype or one of those type of things for folks that have purchased the course or used the training course and have questions. All right, we're going to move on to material costs now. Okay, so let's talk about some tools that you're going to need, and we'll also briefly throw in some leather. I probably will throw up some numbers on the screen here on a little table and kind of tell you what you're looking at as far as leather cost and hardware cost. We'll just do a little estimate. But right now where we are is on my Amazon affiliate store. Yes, I'm affiliated with Amazon as an influencer or affiliate, whatever you want to call it. And I have a store set up on here. And the reason I did this is because I wanted to be able to place all the tools and some of the supplies in one spot. So you could get on there and just have everything gathered in one spot. So you could look at the listing or the grouping of tools that you're going to need to build a basic pair of chinks. The address for this is amazon.com/shop/buckaroo gear. You'll see on here there's going to be a number of different groups. For future classes, I will name each group whatever that class, prospective class name is. But here we go. I've got this already set up, and this is most of the supplies and tools needed for the Basic Chinks lesson or Basic Chinks course. So we click on this, and it's going to open up a bunch of different tools that the majority of these are tools that I recommend you have in order to build a pair of Basic Chinks. Now, you don't absolutely have to have everything here. You don't absolutely have to have this surface plate. You don't absolutely have to have this specific ruler, but you're going to need a ruler of some kind and a straight edge of some kind to build a pair of chinks. You don't necessarily need to have this gum trag, but I am going to use this in the training course, so I put it on here. You don't necessarily need to have this trifold poster board, but it's a really helpful way to get the size cardboard you need to build a basic pattern. So I just threw it up here, and I'm going to use this in the training course. So if you don't already have leather tools or some basic leather tools, you're going to need to invest in about, the total is, at the time of the recording of this video, which is December 26, 2022, you're going to need to invest about $471.66, and that's before tax, and this is on Amazon. Now, you don't need to purchase all these tools from the Amazon affiliated Buckaroo Gear store. You can shop this around. I'm sure there are some better deals to be had out there. If you want to put some time into it, you might be able to find some of these tools used. But here's just a real quick rundown of what you're going to need. Now, the other big one, sewing machines. I'm going to show you what I use to sew and assemble my chaps on exclusively. Been doing it now for about 20 years. It is this model right here, the number 618. It's a flatbed sewing machine. Any sewing machine you use with leather, it's very important that you have a compound needle feed walking foot type machine. You want to make sure you have a speed reducer. You want to make sure you have a servo motor. They don't even list a price here for this machine, so that's no good. So let's go over here. All right, guys, so I have been in search of a backup machine to mine, and I have been working with these guys at Sailrite. Sailrite specializes in all sorts of stuff. They got started in the sewing industry back in 1968 when they were developing a portable sewing machine to fix sails and modify sails on board boats. And they're really making a go at breaking into the leathercraft industry. They also do auto upholstery, hobbies, obviously sails, canvas work for boats, and just straight up upholstery. So they have a line of industrial sewing machines that they call their fabricator. I recently purchased one of these, and they sent it to me, and I've been testing it out. We got it all assembled. My wife Kim has never sewn before. She's a complete beginner, and she's learning how to sew on this machine. You can get this Sailrite standard fabricator machine. Looks like it's $1,695, and they sell, if you don't have a sewing machine already and you're brand new to leathercraft, they sell a package that is specific to leathercraft, and it includes some thread, it includes some different walking foots, smooth walking foots, a smooth feed dog in here that you would need so that you don't mark up your leather. It includes a number of different needles, and I believe the leathercraft package is an additional $200, which is right here. So you're looking at, so here it is, $261.95 plus the cost of the sewing machine. This is really what you need. You just need this left hand zipper foot. I don't use the smooth feed dog plate. You need some different needles, and you need this. This is a smaller pulley, and you need this belt. And what that does is it allows the machine to go really slow, which is what you want, and controlled for leather. So you can get around corners, you can get into tight features on your work, and do this all under extreme control. This machine I've been using now for about a week and a half, and I'm really impressed with it. It's a huge advancement over my older machine. My older machine has a servo motor. This machine has a direct drive servo motor, and it's unbelievable the amount of control. The quality of the machine is awesome. Their service and support is awesome. They have a number of different videos on setting the machine up, how to use the machine, the difference between their deluxe fabricator and their standard fabricator. It's unparalleled. The customer service and the support is awesome. And the machine comes in 5 different boxes, and you would have to assemble it, but they have a full video on how to assemble it. And soon here on our YouTube channel, we'll have a complete review and unboxing video. So this is a really good option for somebody that's brand new to sewing, does not have a sewing machine, and is looking to get into the chap making. Okay, so here we go to wrap this up. Initial costs. I just put $500 here on tools and supplies. There are going to be a few things you need to purchase, especially if you haven't been doing leatherwork before and you don't have any tools. At bare minimum, you're going to spend $500 on tools, it looks like. Your sewing machine, if you don't have a sewing machine, $2,300. Buckles and hardware, I'm just going to put in here 25 bucks. It's not necessarily going to cost you 25 bucks every time you build a pair, but for your first pair, you're not going to be able to just buy one buckle and one rivet. So you're going to have to buy, they come in packs of quantities of at least 10 to 25 at minimum. So 25 bucks in buckles and hardware. Leather, this is going to be a big question mark. $300. And the reason why I put $300 is because you're going to have to buy 3 sides of leather. You're going to have to buy a side of leather for the leg or shap leather. You're going to have to buy a side of latigo leather. You're going to have to buy a side of strap leather or veg tan leather. It could be more than $300 depending on where you get your leather from and what shipping costs. So just keep that in mind. If you already have leather on hand, you probably don't need to worry about this. Maybe you spend $125 to $150 on chap leather only. All total, your initial investment, $3,125. And this is if you don't have any of the tools that we talked about, a sewing machine, or obviously leather. So we're just being upfront about costs. This is quite an investment. If you're doing this as a one-off, you might think twice. If you're doing this because you think you're going to build some chinks in the future, you want to get into doing this, this is what your initial investment is going to be, especially if you don't already have some leather tools. Okay, in closing, I just want to make sure and reiterate that this, our basic chinks building class, we are not going to go over any type of leather tooling or stamping or carving. Anyway, hopefully you guys, this gives you an idea of what this class is about. And I appreciate you watching, and I am excited to get started on the class. Thanks again.